Amina?
We can see you.
You can see, you can go ahead, it's fine.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Is Shehnaaz around?
I'm on.
Okay. All right. Good evening and salam to everyone. And now, hi, and welcome to the Minara Business and Professional Women's webinar this evening. Especially a good welcome to all the listeners, or I would say participants, for this evening. And sorry for the technological glitches that we have now and then. In fact, I still didn't get the message on my iPad. I prefer it on my iPad. Why? Because on my phone, someone has to call me now and it's going to go off, you know. All right, so just to tell you, Shehnaaz and the rest of who don't know much about the Minara Business and Professional Women, we hosted, for over the 3 years, we hosted the Womenomic Conference. So I think today, we are extending that on a virtual. And because of lockdown, we couldn't continue. So we addressed a variety of issues relating to how women interface the economy, as well as we addressed the gender-based violence as well, particularly on rape cases and also sexual harassment at work. And I must say it was very, very pleasing because lots of ladies enjoyed the conference, but unfortunately we couldn't have it this year. So Shehnaaz, just to say that, you know, the great lockdown suggests that that the root cause of current economic depression lies because of the pandemic, and you will agree with me to a certain extent. But the extent of the economic depression is not only attributed to the pandemic, I must say. You know, the record of rates of unemployment from 27%, 21, it went to 27, and now with lockdown, it went to even more than that, about 30. So, you know, the dramatic decline in the economic growth is because of a number of, you know, reasons. You know, so we're not going to discuss that now. So, by listening to you, Shehnaaz, tonight, maybe we will want to imagine that the COVID-19 recovery will require a new way of economic thinking now, you know, one that puts the well-being of society over the individual success. So good. I want to introduce you, Shehnaaz, a very dynamic person, I must say. The topic, listeners or participants for tonight by Shehnaaz Suleman is managing your business and personal finance during economic strains. I must say, if I have my conference, I'm going to definitely have you there. So just to tell all of you that Shehnaaz, after completing her articles at PKF in Durban, 2010-2013, Shehnaaz qualified as a CA, Chartered Accountant in South Africa, and went on to spend 6 years at KPMG as a key member of the technical accounting team. I hope not when KPMG let us down with all those things that took place. But nevertheless, Shehnaaz provided accounting guidance and audit support within the financial services sector on financial instruments, as well as other technical topics. So during that time, she worked with major banks and traveled all across the African continent. I must say, I'm over impressed with that, especially if people go to the African continent, providing IFRS training and assisting teams with technical accounting queries. Now, during 2018, Shehnaaz moved on to EY. I'm not going to ask you now what the mnemonics are about, but maybe you can impress upon it later. You've got a number of mnemonics here. So where she was a senior management in the financial resources group, FRG. That provided technical accounting support to major banks and insurers across South Africa, as well as the UK. So in 2019, she embarked on a new adventure within the Discovery Group as a technical accounting specialist. You know, there was a time when on Women's Day, I had to go to so many areas and I spoke about women getting into the accounting field, into finance. I must say, I'm so impressed with you. Being young, youthful, and you really got into it. I'm so impressed. So in this role, she was involved in assisting with accounting queries and projects across the group, as well as drafting and reviewing financial statements for different entities within the group. So in addition, Shehnaaz was also involved in calculating expected credits losses, building IFRS 9 and hedge accounting disclosures. So after helping the group finalize year-end results, Shehnaaz decided to return to her passion in the profession, technical accounting with a specific focus on financial services. She joined the BDO South Africa FS team in October 2019 and has really taken on to the firm's values of people, helping people achieve their dreams. I love that. Shehnaaz has made an impact on her team and has won over the hearts of many clients. I'm sure beauty and brains go there, both in and out of the financial sector. And she closes this by saying she's also a foodie who loves cheesy jokes and reality TV shows. So I must say, when you end your topic, we want one of the cheesy jokes that you last listened to. We put you in the corner with that. So listeners, we have a very powerful, young, youthful woman, Shehnaaz Suleman, who is going to address us all. Welcome, Shehnaaz, to MBPW Womenomics.
Jazakallah so much, Fawzia, and really, I really am, my heart is touched by your warm words. I really appreciate the praise. I was laughing when you were talking about technical accounting because when I joined my new role, I had to tell everyone what I do. And if you've ever had to go for some trainings and these leadership courses, they tell you, you should be able to summarize it in one line. What do you do? And so I had said in front of another 50 people in my team, my job is to simplify a complicated accounting principle into one line. And if I don't do that, you don't have to pay me. And everyone was really excited, especially my boss, about that part. And so it's quite a mouthful. So you're right, there's a lot of mnemonics. But the big four audit firms have their different mnemonics and does stand for something. We get so used to it, we get desensitized. It's just like second nature. But thank you for that really warm welcome. And I'm really excited to be here. And I'm really honored to be asked to speak to everyone. And I'm going to try to keep it balanced. So, you know, I'm a technical accountant. I'm not going to get too technical. A lot of my experience comes from financial services. So managing your business and your personal finance currently during everything that's going on is a very hot topic at the moment and something that's close to my heart. So I was quite excited to talk to this topic. So I'm going to kick off and get straight into it. I wanted to start with a little bit of a historical angle, if you will. You know, we all go to these women's events, and August it's got all these initiatives that are started for promoting awareness on women's rights and equality. But I really thought it would be nice just to touch on, where did it all start? In 1954, the Federation of South African Women was launched. And it's interesting, I found it quite interesting, that on the 9th of August, 1956, 20,000 women marched together, regardless of race, regardless of color, religion, social status. 20,000 women banded together in a time of crisis to march for something, to support each other and help each other through a difficult time, in a time of crisis. And I found that was so interesting because right now we find ourselves in a bit of a similar situation where we are experiencing a crisis. And whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's a number of emotions that we experience and we're feeling. And it's important that as women, we need to come together and support each other to get through this time of crisis together. And leading on from that, there's a global pandemic that's happening. There's propaganda and news everywhere regarding COVID-19. It's hard to actually get a step away from it. And there's been a lot of difficulty and tragedy and loss, but we can't ignore that there has been some silver linings. And one specifically that I want to touch on is quite important because as women, we're expected to be all-rounders. You have to bring your A game to work, you have to run your house, you have to look after the kids, you have to be there for your friends and family. You're the pillar of support and strength for so many people. And the one thing that's come through in the workplace and in your personal space as well is with the lockdown, we've got increased flexibility. Working from home was a concept before that corporates and working environments didn't really buy into. Now we haven't had a choice. Everyone's been forced to move onto an online platform. And that working from home really has given everyone flexibility, particularly so for women. It becomes important. We have that flexibility, but with it, it comes its own challenges. And some of the challenges are things like you've got to be able to manage your workspace. So if you're anything like me, you want to change it up a lot of the time. Otherwise, you get stuck in that same mindset and in that same space. Setting clear boundaries is also important between when it's time for work and when it's time to switch off, unplug, and recharge. Whatever that means, spending time with your family or just stepping outside, spending some time outside. So it's that changing your workspace, setting your clear boundaries, and also time management becomes critical because you have additional time now because you don't have to get dressed and drive to work. But then somehow I feel like when the boundaries get blurry, we lose track of that time. We actually lose it. So we really need to get a handle on it. Like it's a benefit to have the flexibility and the option to work from home, but there's some cons to it that we just need to be aware of. So I wanted to start off with that because that's a hot topic. Everyone's talking about burnout. Everyone's talking about, I don't know what day it is. I just work and I cook and I clean. And it's really important to have some boundaries so you can keep some form of sanity and mental health throughout this. And the next thing that I want to talk about is resilience. It's extremely important to build resilience. And what does resilience even mean? Resilience is, in a nutshell, the ability to adapt in a time of trauma, disruption, or loss. And that's important because it's the time it takes to bounce back and to be able to keep going and be positive amidst whatever uncertainty or anxiety is around you. And resilience can be your own emotional resilience, but it's also resilience for your business. There's a lot of us that run our own businesses. We are managing our own finances, and we also need to lend that resilience into that space. So that brings me to the juice of why are we here, managing your personal finances and your income. And I'm going to start with I'm going to approach this in two parts. On the one side, I'm going to talk a little bit about the income, and the other side, I'm going to talk about expenses. So in a very simplistic manner, I'm going to talk about a few points under each of those. So if we talk about income, we really need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that means we need to be able to read up, upskill, and develop interests in spaces we wouldn't ordinarily have an interest in. That could mean anything from, reading up on software or what's happening in the world. There's riots happening in Hong Kong. The gold price is skyrocketing. Not too long ago, we had oil wars. I mean, I'm the last to talk, but these are important things, because when you read and you keep yourself informed, then you are arming yourself with information, which allows you to then be able to spot opportunities. And I have a very heartwarming story to share, which is, a nice example of when this can be useful. So during February and March, we went into lockdown, and there was a story of a gentleman who was a cleaner at a local restaurant. He bought his wife a stove as a gift because she had given birth to their first baby boy at the end of Feb. And a month later, at the end of March, he lost his job because the country went into lockdown. The restaurant couldn't afford to keep him on, and they had to let him go. So then he found himself at home. In the first 3 weeks of lockdown, it was quite restrictive. And so he found himself, watching videos on YouTube. And I'm sure most of you who have kids, your kids may watch your videos on YouTube. And so he actually taught himself how to bake. This man watched videos on baking cakes. He'd never baked before in his life. And as soon as he could, he got an electrician to come in, connect up this brand new stove that he'd purchased. And he started to bake cupcakes and cakes and go around selling it to neighbors. And some neighbor, a friend of his, took a picture of this, created an Instagram account for him and tagged him on it. And within a few weeks, orders started to stream in, and he started to make money on this. He got showcased on a show that highlights small businesses currently. And people started to help him develop a company logo, develop marketing, help him with getting more orders, help him in different ways, and really just support him. And this is someone who was a cleaner, who taught himself how to bake using a YouTube video, and baked, and he started this business, and now it's taking off. And he says on his latest interview, he's probably going to have to buy another stove to keep up with the orders. And it's a really heartwarming story, because amidst all the heavy messaging and the seriousness around us, that's one of the examples of how you can bring yourself up to speed on areas that you don't necessarily have a lot of skills in. You can find information on the internet about just about anything today. And, you can take the initiative. And when people see someone trying, there's so many people that are willing to help. And this is such a good success story to share, to give that example. So we really need to move out of our comfort zones. And if you want to keep me honest, you're welcome to Google or find him on social media. It's called Cakey by Davey. And you'll see, I'm not making this up. It's actually a true story. And so, that's just one example of spotting the opportunities of where can we increase our income? What else can we do? I've heard, some of the people in my profession have started to tutor school children because of the schools being online. They don't necessarily have access to teachers face-to-face, so they've started online tutoring. Some people are charging for it in their spare time. Like, people are getting quite resourceful. And on the income side, that's kind of the biggest point I wanted to mention, because, it has a really big kind of, the sky's the limit. Whatever you can imagine, whatever you want to learn, you can, and you can give it a shot. Then I want to talk about expenses. And I know this one is usually a topic for everyone that's a bit of a sore spot. Now, historically, businesses have always tried to reduce expenses. cost cutting and efficiencies has been a strategic objective in most entities for a long time now. But with COVID-19, this has become an even bigger focus area. And so I just want to touch on a few key points here. So the first thing, if you're running your own business, you obviously have some sort of space that you may be using, that you're renting. You may have heard what's happened in the industries as a result of COVID-19. People were shut down. And so it really opened up the dialogue between landlords and people running businesses to say, well, we're not going to be able to make the rent payment. And landlords have been quite accommodating and renegotiated those rentals. And what we've seen across the board is the way the rental agreements have changed is instead of paying a fixed fee every month for your rental, the way the rental is structured now is to say you can pay a percentage of your sales. So if you have a low month in sales, you won't have to pay as much. And that's really to give some sort of relief to smaller businesses in how they have to manage their overhead expenses. So that's the one thing, is to really have that conversation and try to renegotiate terms to push out. Because, let's be honest, this is not a forever situation. So we just need to push out, manage, and plan. And we really need to get a handle on how much are things going to cost. And let's plan properly and put aside that amount and manage our cash flows. So the rentals is a big ticket item that's been renegotiated. And over and above that, where any businesses or finances have some sort of loans, you'll see a number of the banks have rolled out relief and products where if you want to restructure, you can get some relief. You have to meet certain criteria, you have to maybe provide some documentation, but then they'll give you some sort of relief, payment holidays. And I've seen just this morning on FNB, they're rolling out phase 2 of relief programs, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to be rolling out. We don't know if there's going to be a second wave. So the banks are now starting to offer that additional relief as well. So it's important to take those long-term commitments, the bigger amounts, and restructure, see what's flexible, what's negotiable, and kind of restructure those. Then, as much as we may be saving money on travel or on certain other expenses that we're not having to do right now, we have to really plan what are things going to cost us in the next few months. And part of that means we need to look at, are we going to incur? So if you're a business that's running, you need to think about how much am I going to have to spend on social distancing and making sure I have enough space so I can only have less people in my store at once. Do you have enough sanitizer? You have to pay for masks. So there's additional expenses that are going to come in there, and that needs to be factored into your forecast and your projections and your overall plan. The other thing that's going to maybe be an increase in expenses that you need to manage is when you work from home, you may need office furniture, a desk, maybe a laptop or printer, so that you are able to continue working. Maybe you want to upgrade your Wi-Fi and create that workspace for yourself. But the good news is when you spend on creating that workspace, there's tax rules that are applicable. And if you meet certain criteria, you then can qualify for additional maybe tax deductions. So in that sense, you can save a bit if you just look at the tax, and then if you apply those tax deductions, you'll actually save some money on that. For those of you that have businesses that employ a number of people, now is the best time to really increase your engagement with your employees, building that trust between you and them, to make sure you also know what it is that's important to them. Are they okay? How do they want to work? And kind of some of figure this out together to get to a good medium, to ensure business continuity, and to make sure that you get through this together and that your business is resilient to the pandemic overall. So that's the point on income and expenses, and really how personal tips on managing your business to make sure that it's more resilient and can plan better through the pandemic. But the other point that I want to talk about is technology. Now, if you're anything like me, you know, technology, you look at it and it doesn't work properly. And Fauzia, I'm sure you can attest to that. We had some technical glitches. You know, that is a common problem. But with everything going on, businesses and people have been forced to move everything online. I mean, I saw lots of people having Eid Zoom meetings to see your family. It's moved online. Meetings have been moved online. Parliamentary meetings, you know, board meetings, events like this. It's pushed online. And when you move everything online, you really need to get comfortable with technology. You need to understand how to integrate it into your business so that you can almost half the time it takes you to do certain tasks, and that frees up a bit more of your time, right? So we need to start working smarter, not harder, although we probably work hard a lot as well. But as part of the technology play and that angle, you have to be able to have a digital identity and a digital footprint. So if you have a business and you're running it now more than ever, it's critical that you develop a digital strategy that, you know, for example, make sure that you have a profile on LinkedIn to showcase who you are, your business, for example. That if you're doing events online or you can have social media campaigns, videos, your personal branding, your advertising, all of this is going to fall under your digital strategy. And how are you going to roll it out to make sure that you stay relevant, that you can connect with your target audience online? And with anything digital, I would not be doing justice if I didn't mention that data and cyber risks are important. And I say this because if you are doing things online, you need to take steps to make sure that your information is safe. You know, we've heard of people hacking Zoom calls like this, and you know, there's a lot of risk involved. And you know, just recently, I think it was just recently, maybe a week ago, we heard about the credit bureau Experian who had a data hack, and the personal information and data of 24,000 people was compromised. So hackers are now, you know, even the crime is moving to somewhat online and digital more than ever. And that's something that we may not know a lot about. Maybe we're not impacted by it just yet, but we need to make sure that we consider it as part of our strategy, as part of our business, as part of our personal information that we have. So that ties up that whole segment on managing your personal finance as well as your business. But there's one thing that's quite close to my heart, and I'm going to talk to a little bit about wellness, because your personal finances and your business will not run smoothly if you don't first look after yourself. So I did touch on this a little bit earlier. So the concept of resilience, and I mentioned emotional resilience, and I'd like to come back to this. So, you know, one of the CEOs of one of the big 4 audit firms was interviewed recently, and he was asked, now during this global pandemic, what is the most important skill that we need to cultivate to be able to make it through this pandemic and maintain, you know, stability? And he said the ability to be agile and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. And while I agree with that, I feel like some of these answers don't have to be that complicated. I think something that's closer to home for me is how many of you get enough sleep at night. I think sleep is very important. It's underrated. And for you to be able to be your best self, focus, remember everything you need to do, and manage your business, you need to be well rested. So for me, I'm going to leave you with that as an important call to action, to try and get enough sleep each night. It costs nothing. And I know those of you have kids, you have other responsibilities, it's a little bit tricky. So try at least 3 to 4 times a week to get some solid sleep, because it's the fuel your brain needs to function. So you need to be well rested so that your body and your brain can access all this information and help restructure your business, plan things going forward better, and still maintain the calm through what could sometimes be chaotic. The second thing I want to mention that that does, also get underestimated and underrated is, the ability to drink water. So I'm just going to leave you with 2 tips for wellness that is easy, and it's small basic principles we can use to make sure, especially in times of high stress levels, you'll notice you feel a bit more parched, you feel thirsty, you feel dehydrated, and then you don't feel strong and powerful. And I use that word because I'd recently attended a video women's event where one woman, she spoke about herself, and I said to her, she reminded me of Azina, the warrior princess, and it's almost like you need to tap into that now and then, especially now more than ever. But I don't think that's possible if you don't have good sleep and if you don't drink enough water. So I'm going to leave you with those 2 call to action and challenge you to at least try to get a little bit better on that, and really just be kind to yourself if you don't get it right all the time, but try. And as part of my last point that I want to talk about, it's I've attended the women's events, I've heard the conversations, I've been part of the corporate environment now for close on to 10 years. And there's been this message of women deserve equal rights and opportunities. We want corporates to give us more opportunities. We want equal rights. We want equal pay. But there's one fundamental principle that I think is so important, and that is deservability. We are the stories we tell ourselves. And we need to first believe in our own minds that we do deserve it. You do deserve that extra 15 minutes of sleep. You do deserve all the success coming your way. You do deserve to make time to walk outside for 10 minutes to get some sunshine. You have to believe it, So that's where the story starts. And you need to write your story and make sure that it's strong, and it's solid and it's sparkly, and it's really just your story to tell. So on that note, I really just want to leave you with that, and the fact that tying it back to my initial, the way I started off my presentation is talking about supporting each other, and as women, we really need to pull each other up. We need to support each other. We need to empower each other. So that's my message that I leave you with. And I know I said this before, but this is now for real, the last thing. As part of one of the interviews I've had, someone asked, with COVID-19, how do you manage working under COVID-19? And, what are tips you can give us and what works for you? And, the usual stuff we all know, exercise, stand up every hour, stretch, that kind of thing. But one thing that I found is such a simple and effective point was, now with COVID and lockdown, you tend to find yourself sitting a lot more. So it's probably a good idea to invest in a really good back support cushion, for your back. So that's my takeaways that I leave you with. And on that note, I'm going to hand over back to Fawzia and see if there's any questions.
I'll put it close by. Vino, you can take over for thank you.
Good evening, ladies. I think it's been such a phenomenal speech. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just want to say that at times our own light goes out and it's rekindled by a spark from another person. And having said that, we need to look at those that keep our spark brightly lit. And today I want to take that absolute opportunity and pleasure in thanking Shehnaaz in sharing the most amazing interaction that we've had with you tonight. For taking the time in educating us, and being an accountant myself, I hear you and I totally understand you when you speak about simplifying things. So we need to simplify the basics And this is needed in all aspects of our lives, not just from an accounting or financial aspect. The more we know about our finances, the better it is in running your businesses. Remember, after all, it is the money that makes the world go round. You know, we can be in denial, but we have to admit that it is ultimately that. And if we don't have that in order, then very little can go right, you know. So ladies, my message is to stop making excuses for what you cannot do, because we're all capable of doing what we really want to do. Shehnaaz, it's been an absolute pleasure listening to you tonight, and I'm sure every single person that was on this chat have gained valuable information that would take their businesses to where they need to be. Ladies, it is accounting, but if you look at it, it is finances. It is everything that you need to know to spin your business around, to pivot from where you are, to get to whatever level, because it is make or break. And I mean, almost 80% of businesses fail in the first 2 years of starting a business because of the lack of knowledge. And here we have the knowledge, and you know, it's not always freely given to us. So we need to take advantage, and I'm surprised there aren't more women on this chat to be able to grasp what is given to us and make it work for us. We complain a lot about what we cannot do and why our finances are not working for us. But you know what? We need to look deep within ourselves, because all the answers that we seek, financial or not, is within us. Do not look further than that. So thank you, ladies, and thank you for Shehnaaz again, once again, for this amazing chat. I'm not sure if anybody else has any questions or if there's time for questions, but
okay, thank you, Vino. Thank you so much for coming in. And are there any questions? Please raise your hands. So Amina will take you in. But Shehnaaz, there's so many thank yous coming through from all those listeners on board. And they are all thanking you, as well as Vino. Thank you so much for thanking Shehnaaz to come over. I
really appreciate it. And it's
Annie,
been an absolute pleasure.
Sorry. Annie, you can go ahead with your question.
Oh, you're on mute, Annie.
Annie? We can hear the radio, though.
I don't think it's Annie.
Did she say she wants to ask a question?
Yes, she did.
Maybe. You can pop it in the chat box. But
all right.
Here we go.
Shehnaaz, just a quick one. Welcome. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to engage with you. Just one thing, Shehnaaz, that we are coming across a lot with working from home and online technology and facilities. We're trying to get the older generation as well as the younger generation. There seems to be a middle factor where they think that as middle generation are more techno than the younger ones who just do their own thing, and the older people think that we cannot be trusted because these things don't work, you know. So my challenge that I'm seeming to get is that you get to a point where yes, it is complete and fine, but that sign and dot and tick doesn't want to happen because they're trusting the technology. And understandably so, with all the news of corruption, etc. What do you do when a person really doesn't understand that they cannot come near you? Because I have an immunity issue, so I have to stay very careful. But now, how would you handle something like that? What is the sort of systems and things that you have that we could share and utilize in those circumstances?
Annie, when you say people can't come near you, do you mean people that you need to work with?
I'm still sitting on quarantine level 5 due to an underlying condition. I have to be.
So you have to just use
I'm online
technology
all the time.
to link up with everyone.
Absolutely.
So I'll be honest with you, Annie, I'm also old school and I also don't always trust technology, but there's a middle ground that we have to get to. And the way I've tried to do it is to, so, obviously we deal with a lot of different boards, and on the boards, the executive directors are a bit older, you know, they're old school. They don't want you to interact with them. They want hard copies. They want to print out stuff. So what we're trying to do is maybe find examples where if I know that certain information can be useful for them, I try to get it printed and posted to them with a little handwritten note so that, you know, they can still look at something in person, or like they can page through whatever documents they need to, but then we talk them through it. And I have the privilege of working when I was in office, and even now when I go in sometimes, next to almost a 65-year-old gentleman who is, bless his soul, sometimes can't even change his WhatsApp profile picture. And you know what?
Yeah.
Even he has figured out Zoom. Even he can teach me about Zoom and tell me, no, he prefers Zoom over Microsoft Teams, and he'll tell me how to change a profile picture. So I think we just need to be patient, you know, with different people, because Annie, in addition to the distrust of technology, I think what we always seem to forget is underlying all of that, there is uncertainty in the air.
Absolutely.
And that causes anxiety to be at a higher level. Whether you can link it to something, whether you can't. I mean, you may have a situation where you can't find your car keys and you burst into tears. It's normal because there's anxiety just in the air. We don't know what the government's going to say tomorrow. We don't know if our family and friends are always going to be safe. And it's just heightened. There's a heightened sense of anxiety. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. But more so, there needs to be an awareness of it so that you be kind to yourself and then you help each other through it. And maybe you have a stronger day and you're a little bit better on technology today. And the point I want to end off here with is, when you're not sure, ask for help. People are there. They're better than what you give them credit for. They are phenomenal people out there. Even if it's something as simple as, my Wi-Fi keeps bombing, I don't know what's going on, I'm feeling frantic. Phone someone, breathe, ask them. I promise you, phone a friend. I'm volunteering myself. I promise you, and people will help to help upskill you, help you figure it out.
Okay, what I have been doing is sort of piggybacking on our chamber name, you know, the MBPW name, because it has a bit of credibility if you look at it that way. But maybe we should, and a suggestion to Fawzia Peed, I don't know if you can hear me, is maybe we should actually do an awareness campaign of some sort where our leaders in business that are female are actually put out there using media platforms, etc., so faces become more familiar. Because remember, in the boardroom, you're limited. But when your faces become familiar as to this person, you know, I don't know, Fawzia, you're quite good at this. You've got quite a good run up on these type of things. Maybe we could put heads together and figure out a way of how we can present our strengths and goals, but in a forum that is now becomes like I'm trying to use the right word, a forum that can be trusted. You know, and know, okay, if it's endorsed by that, this person's on this forum endorsed, then that endorsement would possibly assist on that online technology world that people are worried about. So if I say AMP, it's AMP for the people that I know, but for the people, new business that I'm doing at the moment, it's just AMP. It could be AMP in Gauteng, AMP in Cape Town, or AMP. So maybe we could, as women, maybe collaborate something that would be an endorsement of some sort, where people know, okay, they've come an endorsed agency with a good leader, and this can be trusted, because new business is very difficult to close when they don't know you and you're doing it on technology only. So just a suggestion, but thanks for the tips, because I definitely got my water. I don't know about the sleep because we listen to music, which is actually
baby steps. Baby steps. But I think what you mentioned, Annie, your point is quite important, and it touches on technology and building your digital identity. That's your personal brand.
Yes.
And you know, it may be worth it to see if we could get more women in technology to speak, or help with building that, or give you some tips on that specifically. That may be a follow-up that maybe, you know, we can consider. So I think that's very important. There's very few women in technology to assist with that. So that's a very good point. I mean, I see there's a question in the chat box that says, what are the most common financial mistakes or regrets businesswomen make earlier in their business space, and how can they pivot from that? I have one specific example of this, and I don't know how many women, I suspect it's going to affect most people, is, you know, oftentimes women have trouble saying no. can you help me with this? I have a quick question. Can you quickly do this? And then we want to help everyone. And it's important to identify, when to say no sometimes, because you're going to overstretch yourself, and then you're not going to do justice to the task at hand or to the person that needs your help. So definitely, learn how to say no with confidence. Be strategic in the things that you spend your energy on, and that's really one of the most important lessons learned, even just from my side. As women, you want to help everyone, but you need to maintain balance and keep yourself grounded. On that note, I just wanted to reply to Vino. Thank you so much for your comments, and thanks to everyone in the chat boxes for the positive feedback and the messages. And Vino, being an accountant, you're quite right. It's not always easy to simplify. But yeah, overall, huge thank you from my side. Amina, I don't know if there's any other questions you've gotten.
No, I think that's about it. How can people contact you if they want to get in touch with you?
I'm going to just drop my email in the chat box, and then you're welcome to send me an email if you need anything, if you have an accounting question, if there's anything I can help you with on a fixed, that's a quick fix. If I have existing material or content I can share, or I can point you in the right direction, more than happy to.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Shehnaaz.
Thank you, Shehnaaz.
Amina, are we now in the group or what?
There's no more questions. You can close up.
Any? Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Amina.
you very much. Salam, bye everyone.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you, Amina.
Okay.
How's my neighbor?